As I've now explained to you, my own natural-born rations, which are even in excess of my faulty brain, ensure me that I am a mouth's more deserving case by genius. I feel in sympathos for my ever-devoted friend and half-fellow unwashed Nakas Nokovich, darling gem, darling small fox, horror show. I could love that man like my own Ambo for being so barely clever, though he's an awful Carillas, and I'm a slave to methodiousness. I want him to go and live like a Theobald in charge of the Night Brigade on Tristan da Cunha, Isle of Man Overboard, where he'll make number 106 and be near inaccessible. The meeting of mahoganies, be the waves, rementures me that this exposed site, though it pines for an umbrella of its own, and needs a shelter belt of the true service sort to keep its bowls clean. The weeping beaches, Piscia and Tilia, are in a wild state about it, ought to be classified as cricket butt Willone, and his two nurserymen advisers suggested, under genus inexhaustible, when we refloat upon all the butternut, sweet gum and manna ash, red cedera, which is so purulent there, as if there was hawthorns in Curachasa, which ought to look as plain as a lodgepole to anybody until we are introduced to that pine decotta of Verni rubeus, where the Deodati is pictured for us in a pure stand, which we do not doubt has a habitat of doing, but without those self-sown seedlings, which are a species of proof that the largest individual can occur at or in an elevation such as East Connor Hillock, where it mixes with fulth, occasions and common sallies, and is tender, vox populus, as we say in hickory-hockory, and I wish we had some more glasses of arbor vitae. Why roach by the roadside, or on over alum pot, Alderman Whitebeaver is Daco? He ought to go away for a change of ideas, and he'd have a world of things to look back on. Do, sweet Daniel, if I weren't a Jones in myself, I'd elect myself to be his dolphin in the wilds below, because he is such a bare-footed rubber, with my super socks pulled over his face, which I publicked in my best back garden for the laetification of siderodromites, and to the irony of the stars. You will say it is most un-English, and I shall hope to hear that you will not be wrong about it, but I fear the feeling a bit husky in my truce. Will you please come over and let us moor more mergiously to each other's down below our vices? I am underheard by old Bill Faust. Wilsh is full of kirks. The cool skittle is Philip Deblinite. Mr. Whist is therefore behind the whatnot. Wilsh and Whist are as thick as Finn's udder, as Faust on the Deblinite. Zgunashutu estas preta La tipos malgranda, lilagas al scientia, chambro quelcafogia functas, quelcafogi strumas, sultroge hudian kiel vifatas, my nigra senjoro, and from the point of fun where I'm trying to arrive, you, at they, are on all four, as forable-minded as you can feel they are fable-bodied. My heeders will recoil with a great leisure, how at the outbreak before trespassing on the space question, where even Michelangelines are fooled to dread, I proved to myself as to your satisfaction how his object all through the quick quid of Professor Ciondolone's too frequently hypothecated Betlemensch is nothing so much more than a mere cash-time. However genteel he may want ours, if we please, I am speaking to us in the second person, for to this graded intellectual's dime is cash, and the cash system. You must not be allowed to forget that this is all contained, I mean the system, in the dog marks of origin on spurios, mean that I cannot now have or not have a piece of chips in your pocket at the same time, and with the same manners as you can now not half, or half the cheek apiece, I have in mind, unless Bose and Cassius have not or not have simultaneously disentangled themselves, sell dear to soul there, once in the dairy days of by and by. Boys, let us like to imagine, is a genuine prime, the real choice full of natural grease, the mildest of milk stuffs, yet unbeaten, as a rhisicide, and of course obsoletely unadulterous, whereat Cassius is obviously the revise of him, and in fact not an ideal choose by any means, though the better man of the two is meltingly addicted to the more casual side of the arrivalista case, and let me say it at once, as zealous over him as is possibly he. The same home and history seeks and hide pence, which we used to be reading for our pre-purgatory hot shut, till Duddy shut the shopper up, and Mutty, poor Mutty, brought us our poor suppy, how, in Acetius, and Oleosus and Stelius, Volatilus and Petrus Papricus, our old party quite united around the slat bowels at Commons, Perfar Salamos himself, and that sprug of a pedicil, and his swig of thyme, and a dozen of the Murphy buds, and a score and more of the hot young capels, and Letitia in her greensleeves, and you two and me three, twinsome tubs, twinsome bubs, but handsome at eights, like Shakespeare and eggs, and there's many a split pretext bowl and jowl, and snob screwing that cork shut. To understand this as well as you can, feeling how backward you are when you're down to the ground benches, I have completed the following arrangement for the coarse use of stools, and if I don't make away with you, I'm beyond Caesar outdullest. The old sizes, tyrants, regicides is too good for you, became unbearable from age. The compositor of the farce of Dustiny, however, makes a thumble-drum mistake by letting off this pianifat effect, and as his first act, as that is where the Duke comes in, having been sort of nine-knifed, the truly removed, the soldier author Batman for all his commentarism is just another of those soft seized bubbles who never quite got the sand test out of his eyes, so that the champion he draws for us is as flop as a plank-rike. The twin freer types are billed to make their reappearance as the new neck and knife knick-knocks, and the deserted Jean de Bourgotte A most cursory reading into the Persic Uralians hostily shows us how Phonomagula picked up that proper Newman out of a collection of prefixes, though to the permeating connoisseur, the Kukusian offspring of this son of a cook is as certain as there's a tub in Tobolsk. Ostiak della Volga Marina, but that I don't know the fact of wanting to West Point. I could paint you that to put it, cheese it. If you had some wash. Maud veal alive, oh me none nonsense. Why, the case is as inessive and impulsive as keesome hands. Their interlocutive is conprovocative, just as every hazzy hates to having a hasbane in her nose. Cassius may bethink himself a thought of a caviller, but Boaz has the richly rounded head that goes best with thinking defensive fideism. He has the lack of wisdom under every dent in his lofter, while the other follows on him very milky, indeed mimey, laughing over the linnets and whipping off the union. He isn't the hay og, he isn't. Listen to Lug boo-hoo, and each night Sim misses mand, he winks he had this imagine. It was aptly and courageously stated, and it is royal needless for one ex unga leonam to say by whom, that his seeing's craft was that clarity, as were the whole borough of Petersburg, to be avalanched over him pitch-patch. He could still make out with his oak stritch the green moat in Ireland's eye. Let me sell you the full troth of bows, when you roar yonker, here it is in charming 2 and 6x7s. A cleanly line by the gods, a king off duty, and a joy forever. A jaw forever, and what a cheery wipe outlook. God help me, Deus versus Deus. If I were to speak my whole mouthful to Aranam about it, you should call me the almost aliment in your midst of fame. Eat ye up, heat ye up, sings the someone in the psalm. Buttirum et mel commodat. Sciat reprobare malum et elige bonum. This, of course, also explains why we were taught to play in the childhood. De Hainsley ist ein Butterbrot, mein Butterbrot, und Kirby ist ein stinken Gott. Yeah. This, in fact, just to show you, is Cassius, the Bruderscutch of poor Tyrone, a whole of 2. The high stinks of all felt and anigo prigging worms. Chisur, you complain, and hi. Must say you were not hoa in the wrong. Thus we cannot escape our likes and mislikes, exiles and ambushiers, beggar and neighbour, and this is where the dime. Show advertisers advance a temporal relief plea. Let us be tolerant of antipathies. Next quovis borough num fit Mercatius. I am not hereby giving my final endorsement to the learned ignorance of the Cusanus Philosophum, of which old Nicholas pegs it down that the smarter the pin of the top of the sound of the span of the button. What the worthy old Orbiginistas ought to have meant was, the more stolidly immobile in space, appears to me the bottom which is presented to use in time by the top, primo mobilisque, etc., and I shall be misunderstood, if understood, to give an unconditional sine qua non to the heroicized furibouts of the Nolanus theory, or at any rate of that substrata of apart from his theory where the Theophilus swears that on principle he was the pointing start of his odious by comparison, and that whilst eggs will fall, cheapened all over the wall of the brewer, will be dear on the brae. Now, while I am not out now to be taken up as unintentionally recommending the Silkbjorg Trondinana machine for the most economical helix trollysis of these ambodepates, until I can find space to look into it myself a little more closely first, I shall go on with my decisions after having shown to you in good time how both products of our social stomach, the excellent Dr. Boerman, I noticed by the way from his amended food theory, has been carefully digesting the wholesome criticism I helped him to in my Princeps edition, which is all so much to the good, are mutually polarized the incompatibility of any delusional acting as ambivalent to the fixation of his pivotism. Positing as above two male pools, the one the picture and the other and the ombre of the sculpture of the one, and looking wantingly around our undistributed middle between males, we feel we must wastefully warrant a female to focus, and on this stage there pleasantly appears the cowrie maid M, whom we shall often meet below, who introduces herself upon us at some precise hour which we shall again agree to call absolute zero, or the babbling bumpt of Platonism. And so, like that former son of a Kish, who went up and out to found his farmer's ashes, we come down home gently on our own, turned about asses to meet margarine. We now romp through a period of pure lyricism, of shame-bred music. Technologically, let me say, the appetizing entry of this subject on a full chest of veals is plumply putting the cart before Dervhors, evidenced by such words in distress as, I cream for thee, sweet Margarine, and the more hopeful, oh Margarina, Margarina, still in the bowl is left a lump of gold. Correspondents, by the way, will keep on asking me what is the correct garnish to serve Trichines with tangy sauce. Enough. The pawn-breaking pathos of the first of these shoddy pieces reveals it is Cassius' effort. Boer's bit is often used for a toast. Criniculture can tell us very precisely indeed how and why this particular streak of yellow silver first appeared or not in the bowl, that is to say the human head, bald, black, bronze, brown, brindled, better raved or blancmanged, where it might be usefully compared with an earwig on a full bottom. I am offering this to Signorina Kutakawa, and I intend to take it up and bring it under the nose tice of her Harleen by way of diverting his attentions. Of course, the unskilled singer continues to pervert our wiser ears by subordinating the space element, that is to sing, the aria to the time factor, which ought to be killed, il tempo. I should advise any unborn singer who may still be among my hearers to forget her temporal diaphragm at home, the best thing could happen to it, and attack the roulade with a swift colpo di glottida to the lug, though Mace, I will insist, was reclined from overdoing this, his recovery often being slow, and then, oh, on the third dead beat, oh, to close her eyes, and I open her oath, and see what spice I may send her. How? Cease thee, canter tricky, I fain would be solo, arouse thee my valour, and say for e'er my troubadour. I shall have a word to say in a few yards about the acoustic and architectural management of the Town Hall, but ours is a various, where one plant's breath is a longer planner's by scent, and you may not care for argon. It will be very convenient for me for the emolument to pursue Boris and Cassius for a rung or two up their isoscellating triangle. Every admirer has seen my goulash of Marge. She is so like the sister, you don't know. And they both dress alike, which I titled The Very Picture of a Needleswoman, which in the present ornates our national cruet stand. This genre of portraiture of changes of mind in order to be truly horse would evoke the bush soul of females, so I am leaving it to the experienced victim to complete the general suggestion by my mental addition of a wallopy bound, or should the zoological zealot prefer it, a Congolese treel. The hot boxes which composed Rumba, Lady Trabezonde, Marge in her excelsis, also comprised the climactogram up which B and C may fondly be imagined ascending and are suggestive of gentlemen's spring modes, these modes carrying us back to the superimposed clay layers of Eocene and Pleistocene formation and the gradual morphological changes in our body politic which Professor Aheru of Philadelphia III, whose blue butterbust I have just given up his coup de grace to, neatly names a boîte à surprise. The boxes, if I may break the subject gently, are worth about 4p per box. But I am inventing a more patent process, foolproof and perfect. I should like to ask that Sherlock Holmes person, who is out for removing the roofs of our criminal classics, by what deductio ad dominum he hopes de tacto to detect anything unless he happens of himself. Move billivile tectu, to have a slade off, after which they can be reduced to a fragment of their true crust by even the youngest of Marches, if she will take please to be seated and smile if I please. Now there can be no question about it either that I have done as much, have quite got the size of that demilitary young female. We will continue to call her Marge, whose types may be met with any public garden. Weary and very dressy affair, known as that Ethel of instep, lengthened with a real fur, reduced to 3 out of 9, the muffin-capped tone. They are angel-skinned this fall, ostentatiously hemming apologetically over the shirtness of some sweet garment when she is not sitting on all of the free benches avidiously reading about it, but evidently on the lookout for him, or so thrilled about the best-dressed dolly prom and beautiful elbow competition, or at the movies swallowing sobs and blowing mixed biscuits over child Chaplin's latest, or on the verge of the gutter with some bobbed hair, brief-rocked Bobby Myers toddler, the Smiths means. Now keep 2 domestics and aspire to 3 male ones, a shover, a bootlegger, and a secretary, hold hostage at arm length, teaching his infant majesty how to make waters worse. I am closely watching Master Pools, as I have reasons to suspect from my post that her little man is a secondary school teacher under the boards of education, a voted disciple of Infantulus, who is being utilized as publicly by the sedicenti infante to conceal her more masculine personality by flaunting frivolous finery over men's inside clothes, for the femininity of that tota mulia will always lack the musculink of a verum virum. My solutions for the proper parturience of matres and the education of Victoria's mites must stand over from the moment till I tackle this tickler hussy for occupying my attentions. Margarina, she's very fond of Boris, but a lick and a lack, she's very fond of G. The important influence exercised on everything by his East Asian import has not been till now fully flavoured, though we can't comfortably taste it in this case. I shall come back for a little more. Say farther on. A clear patrician in her own right, she at once complicates the position, while Boris and Cassius are contending for a mystery, by implicating herself with an elusive Antonius, a wop who would appear to hug a personal interest in refined cheese, of all shades at the same time as he wags an antomine, art of being rude like the boor. This Antonius, Boris, Cassius group triad may be said to equate the koala's equivalent with the older so-called Talus on Talus, one just as quantly as in the hyperchemical economantarchy, the tantrum ergons. He ruminate the quantum urge, so that eggs is to weigh as whey is to zeed, like your Gulf child's able boob caddy. And this is why any simple, File Adolphus of a fool you like to dress, and Artemis through Lowtownian, X-legged, fat recite, may be awfully green to one side of him and fruitfully blue on the other, which will not screen him, however, from appealing to my grope-searching eyes through the strongholds of my aquapole as a boosted, blasted, blitting, blatant, bloating, blasphemous idiot who cannot tail a bomb from his pineapple when he steals one and wann't sing his psalmen with the Kong in our congregational bomb-bombs with the camping crew. No topsman to your tapaya. This thing, Mr. Abbey, is nafand. And taking off south stuffs to Dalalic matters, I hope we can kill time to reach the salt, because there's some fourth class nutric acids bittering in the salt fruit for you to plump your pottage in. The thundering legion has stormed Olymp, that it end. 12 tabular times till now have I edicted, Merus genius, Ducarius Cassius, mortiura, tis salutat. My famous races run, so let democracy take the hindmost. Abraham Trippier, those old diligences are quite out of date. Read next answer. I'll beat you so long. Big-tempered, why not take direct action? See previous reply. My unchanging word is sacred. The word is my wife. To expunse and expound, to vent and to narrate, and may the curlews crown our nuptials, till breathless depart. Warman, beware would you change with my years, be as young as your grandmother. The ring man in the wrong shop. Put the right words by the rote order. Ubi lingua, non capacit, ibi fas, adversus hostum, semper sac. She that will not feel my full moon, let appeal to thee, as the hoyden and the impudent, that mon that hath no Moses in his soul, nor is not awed by conquests of words law, who never with himself was fed, and leaves his soil to lave his head, when his hopes in his high lows, from whisking his woe, if he came to my preach, a proud, purse-broken ranger, when the heavens were welling the spite of their spout, to beg for a bite in our bark. Noise danger would myself, and Mac Jeffet four in hand, foot him out? Aye, were he my own breast brother, my doubled with love, and my singled biased hate, were he bred by the same fire, and signed by the same salt, had we tapped from the same master, and robbed the same till, were we tucked in the one, bed and bit by the one flea, home gallant, and hemi cap noise, bum and dingo, jack by churl. Though it broke my heart to pray it, still I'd fear, I'd hate to say. Question 12. Sesa esto? Answer. Semus sumus.